The Gemara that we learned yesterday, we were on 61b, and we turned the page to 62a. Now, 61b, we were talking about the importance of being respectful to the Beis Hamikdash or the Makam Hamikdash, and a person should be careful when they are either in the direction of the Beis Hamikdash or near it, and visible, they could see it. And we said it doesn't really mean specifically the Beis Hamikdash, but the mountain of the Beis Hamikdash, Har HaBayis. And the Gemara was explaining really the Mishnah, because the Mishnah had said a person shouldn't be act in a lightheaded manner opposite the eastern gate, and that meant that it was the eastern gate to the Beis Hamikdash was opposite the Holy of Holies. Now, then the Gemara said that Rabbi Yehuda Marav said that applies. How far does it go? It only goes until Seifim, till the area that you could see Har HaBayis. And Davka, if you could see it, but if you're not able to see it from there, even if you're closer than Seifim, but something, for some reason, you're not able to see it, it's something is blocking you, too low. So then this law would not apply. And then the Gemara brought a brisa, or mentioned that in the Beis Medrash, before the brisa actually, Gemara mentioned that in the Beis Medrash, it was said the same law, that it's only from Tzayfim. Tzayfim is the area where you can see Har HaBayis, and also only in a place where you actually see. And third thing was that it's davka specifically if there's no geder, there's no fence, no wall separating, and also only in a place, only in a time when there's the Shechina, only in the time when the Shechina is resting, which means in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. So then the Gemara brought a brisa that said about a person relieving themselves, what direction they should be sitting, and or facing, I should say. So the brisa said that in Eretz Yehuda you shouldn't face east or west, and the understanding was because in the land of Yehuda, that's the land that Jerusalem is part of that area, and facing east or west would be one side of your body would be facing Yerushalayim, which would not be appropriate, and rather a person should face north or south, because facing north or south would mean that your body is exposed, not in the direction of Yerushalayim. Yes, David.
I thought that the portion of the Beis Hamikdash was in Binyamin's portion, not the Yehuda's portion.
So there's a drop of the Beis Hamikdash in Binyamin, correct? But the land, the general area is called the land of Yehuda, and that area is where the Beis Hamikdash is, and that entire area is considered, at least regarding this law, it was sort of like put into this grouped. It was grouped into this rule of east-west is okay. East-west is prohibited. North-south is okay. Yes, Ben.
If you look at the map, the area of Beit HaMikdash is like a tongue of Binyamin's area cutting into the Yehuda territory. It's just a narrow strip. And
Binyamin is a narrow strip.
It's considered it's the same area as Yehuda.
Yeah, there's a Gemara, I believe in Zvachim, that talks about the Mizbeach, like part of it was like a little sliver of it, but the Mizbeach was like partially in Binyamin, in Benjamin. Maybe it's in Megillah also. I think the Gemara Megillah also mentions it. But basically the main area is Yehuda, and you have to understand also Yehuda is huge, as Ben is saying. Yehuda is like this huge area that covers major part of Eretz Yisrael. And so in Yehuda, that's this rule. Then it mentions Galil, and the truth of the matter is, when we mention Galil, we're talking about probably many of the other tribes are part of Galil, Naphtali, and Asher, and they're all part of that area. So we're not specifically mentioning tribes. We're just dividing the land into different terms. So the northern area is called Galil. That area, this Brisa says, a person should not face north, should not face north or south, because you're basically north of Yerushalayim. And if you face north or south while relieving oneself, you'd be exposing yourself towards the Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, a person should face Mizrach and Ma'ariv. The person there should specifically face east and west. Now, this is the way I'm translating this Gemara is according to Rashi. There are others that question this, and it's connected to the question that Ben had asked yesterday, that you have this huge area called Yehuda, and why are we telling you that you can't face east or west when relieving oneself? I mean, the area is huge, and facing east or west is not always directly in line with Yerushalayim. Not only that, but there's definitely areas.
Or you need it louder.
There's definitely areas that are in Yehuda that are north and south of Yerushalayim. So so that is one of the questions on Rashi's Pshat, that we're making more to sort of like putting this whole land of Yehuda into this category of being like east or west is a problem, and we're not taking the fact that there's many areas in this big large area that is directly in line with Yerushalayim that might be north or south.
South of Yerushalayim.
South of Yerushalayim. I'm sure there's areas there might be areas north also, by the way. I mean, I know it's at the edge, but it's sort of like the land of Yehuda does sort of like come around the drop. So I'm not sure if it might even be north of Yerushalayim, possibly, but definitely south, as you're saying. So there is a question.
Excuse me.
That's asked. Yes.
The Galil too. It's actually two mountain ranges. There's Galil Elyon and Galil Taton, upper and lower. And so it's a large area too.
Huge. It's a huge area.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is right, that there could be an area of Galil that you're not at all north or south. You're not north or south from Yerushalayim, because you're all the way to the west.
On the east side, on the west side,
yeah. East side is it goes a little right. Definitely the land of Eretz Yisrael does seem to turn a little east, as the line of Israel is not like directly straight up. It does go a little east, which would mean that you have area on the east that would not be directly in line with Yerushalayim. Right? If you make the a map with direct lines straight down, you could, if you're a little to the right of it, then maybe it shouldn't be a problem in the Galil. And then definitely on the west side, there's a huge area that's not directly in line. So it is interesting that the Gemara, that the Brisa, the way Rashi's translating it is it groups everything together in a set way. And but that's the way Rashi is learning, that in Yehuda you're considered east-west. In Galil, you're considered north-south. And then we had a opinion of Rabbi Yossi, who says that the only prohibition is a case of Roya, where you can see from there Har HaBayis, the mountain that has the Beis Hamikdash, and only in there's no fence or gate or a wall. that separates, and only in the time that the Beis Hamikdash is around. So Rabbi Yossi is this lenient view, and then the Brisa brought a third view that sounds like the same as the first view. It says and the rabbis prohibit. So the Gemara, of course, asks, the third view sounds like the first view. The Gemara answers that the difference is tzadim, which means that if you're not directly in line, so one of the opinions is going to permit that, tzadim, the sides. For example, you're in the land of Yehuda, and you're not directly west of Yerushalayim, and or the same thing would be if you're north in the Galil, but you're not exactly north of Yerushalayim. So the Tanakama says that the whole Yehuda is a problem. And he says the whole Galil is an issue. But the rabbis just say that it's usher, but they don't give that general area in their statement. They don't emphasize the whole Galil, the Yehuda. They don't say that. And because they don't say that, they just say it's usher. What they seemingly are saying is what Rabbi Yossi says is permissible, we say is usher. What did Rabbi Yossi say is permissible? Rabbi Yossi said is permissible even if you're in direct line with the Har HaBayis, with the Temple Mount. It's not a problem, Rabbi Yossi says, because there's walls that are separating, and there's no Beis Hamikdash now, and so on, and you don't see it. And the Chachamim, they say no, you're in line with it. It's usher, prohibited. And the Tanakama, the first opinion, was of the opinion the entire area is prohibited. The entire Galil is considered north and south of Jerusalem. The entire Yehuda is considered east and west of Jerusalem. And therefore, a person would need to face a different direction. Now, the Gemara then brings a second brisa. In this brisa, it says that in Yehuda, person should not face east or west, rather they should face north and south. And in Galil, they should face east or west. That would be permissible. North or south is prohibited in Galil. Rabbi Yossi is matir because he holds only if it's roya, if you actually can see Har HaBayis. Rabbi Yehuda says it's only in the time that the Beis Hamikdash exists. Bizman sheBeis Hamikdash kayam. And if the Beis Hamikdash is not kayam, then it's permissible to face any direction. And Rabbi Akiva oiser b'chol makom, Rabbi Akiva prohibits in all areas. Now, the Gemara is now is bothered with why is Rabbi Akiva having like a statement that it's prohibited when the first opinion also said it's prohibited. It's prohibited in Yehuda in this direction, it's prohibited in Galil in the other direction. And then in the end, it says, and Rabbi Akiva says it's prohibited. What do you mean? The first opinion also said it's prohibited. Why don't you just join the other opinion? There must be some difference. Rabbi Akiva is the same as the Tanakama, the Gemara asks. And the Gemara answers that no, the difference is Rabbi Akiva is more machmir. He says, not only am I strict in Israel, even outside of Israel, I'm strict. You have to be careful which direction a person is facing. So this is the Gemara of with the laws. Now comes the stories. The Gemara then brings the story of Rabbah had placed his stones, the certain bricks, I guess, or that he would use as like as the chair of the toilet. He would, he put his bricks in a certain position, and Abaye moved them. Now, the position that Rabbah had placed them, you have to understand, they're living in Babylon. Babylon is east of Jerusalem. And Rabbah had placed them east and west. What does that mean? He placed them east and west. It means that the edge, the beginning and the end of this brick, one was east, one was west, and then he had a second brick east and west, and he would sit down on the back one. And this is how what they would use in the old, I guess, in the olden days. So basically, if one was east and the other one was west, it means that he faced north and south. And he sat down on the back one. I guess the front one was there to sort of like hide, was sort of like to close up the view. So the front brick was just placed there, and the back one he would sit on. And so he was facing east and west, but the bricks were these rectangular bricks were going from east to west. So that the reason I'm explaining it to you is because it sounds like he sat east to west, but that's not true, because east to west is the problem, because he's in Babylon, east and west. This is east of Jerusalem. So therefore, you have to, at least the way Rashi explains it, is that the east and west means that the bricks were situated east to west, and that's how he set them up. Now Abaye went and used those bricks, and he changed it around. He put them north and south, and seemingly he wanted to see if Rabbah would switch them back. In other words, were they just placed there haphazardly, or were they specifically placed in that direction? And so Abaye went and switched them. Rabbah went and he fixed it. And he said, "Who is this that's bothering me? That pains me to have to go and switch them back." And he explained himself. Why do I care? Because I hold like Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva says that even outside of Israel, you have to be careful. So this is this is a source that, anything facing Eretz Yisrael, or facing Yerushalayim, there is some connection. In other words, sort of like it seems to be similar to the idea that we face Yerushalayim when we daven. That there is this connection we have. We're in that direction. We're facing Yerushalayim. And anyway, so the question is, does that apply to respect as well? In other words, we do it because our tefillos, we want to head towards Yerushalayim. That's where the Zeshar Hashemayim, that's where they go up to heaven. But does that apply also? Is it disrespectful if a person faces that direction? Is it with something that's not something clean? Would that be disrespectful as well? And that's where you have Rabbi Akiva's opinion that yes, it doesn't matter where you are. And then we turn to page 62a, and 62a that the Gemara over here says that Rabbi Akiva says, and these were some strange stories where Rabbi Akiva entered the bathroom after Rabbi Yeshua, and he learned from him 3 things. And he learned this, so he saw that he was careful that specifically to face north and south, and that he should reveal himself only when he is sitting, and in other words, not to reveal himself any extra. Shouldn't be more revealed than he needs to. Now, shouldn't stand up and just get totally get undressed, but only when he's sitting, or as little as possible to reveal himself. And he learned also about not using the right hand to wipe himself. And Ben Azai was shocked. He says, "What, you had such chutzpah to walk into the bathroom?" He said, Akiva said, "Listen, I had to learn Torah, to know the laws." So then the Brisa says the story about Ben Azai himself. So he seemed to say, "Okay, I guess it's okay." Then he went after Rabbi Akiva, and he said, "I learned three things." And he learned about the direction, that's specifically north and south. And again, they're in Babylon, so so north and south would be the direction, the proper direction to face. And he learned that the same thing about only after revealing oneself, only after they're sitting, and they only use the left hand. You don't use the right hand. And Rabbi Yehuda told him, "What, you have such chutzpah to go into the bathroom after see Rabbi Akiva?" So he said that to learn Torah, that's I need to know. And then Rav Kahana did something even more surprising. He went under the bed of Rav.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Yeah, before you go to that part, when we're talking about a person should be sitting when he's using the bathroom rather than standing, but then we call urine mei raglayim because the people would stand and the urine would splash on their shoes or on their feet, which means that they were standing, not sitting. Otherwise, why would it be called mei raglayim?
Yeah, no, this is talking about relieving oneself. Not talking about urinating.
Oh, well, of course a person would be sitting, you would think. How would a person stand and relieve themselves?
No. When do they undress themselves in order to relieve themselves? When do they take off? When do they drop their pants? So here it's saying that they should be sitting in order to before revealing themselves, they're sitting. Now, obviously, I don't know if it means exactly sitting or they're about to sit. And obviously, if there might be dirt on the seat, that might be another situation where they might want to, maybe it means a moment before they sit down. But the point is, they shouldn't just be revealing themselves unnecessarily.
Right. I thought it's the urination it's talking about. Not only the defecating, but also urination, that the person should be sitting rather than standing when he's urinating.
No.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
Yeah. There is a question over here as to face what does this apply the direction the person when a person is urinating? There is such a question. In other words, this law of relieving oneself, does it also apply which direction a person should be? Would it also apply to urinating? And I think the common the law generally, if someone the general law doesn't apply. In general, this law doesn't apply. Why? Because we use bathrooms nowadays. But where could it apply if a person was in a field? And because they're not surrounded by a wall, so there is there's reason to follow the view that a person should be careful. So how often does that happen, that a person is in the forest, is in the field, there's no bathrooms around? It depends how big of a hiker you are, but and how serious of a hiker you are. You go to areas that don't have bathrooms. So it's not, for the most part, at least for most people I know, it's not so practical, any of these laws. But it could be if a person, sometimes, you need to urinate and you're driving a long trip. So you might pull over and just go to the woods or go to the side. So that could be a reason so if a person wanted to be strict, it's they could look at what direction they are. But the common custom, and I believe the Mishnah Berurah brings down that it's not that you don't have to be machmir. I have to take a look. It's in the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch, and I think the common custom is not to be so strict. But anyway, that's
so when they build a shul, they don't have to worry about the position of the bathrooms.
exactly. Let me see if I pull it up right over here.
Well, in Chicago, if you stop at the side of the road, they arrest you.
Here it's here it is in chapter 3 of the Shulchan Aruch. If someone is relieving himself, the Makam Megullah in a revealed, in a open area that there's no walls, he should make sure that his face is to Daraim, his face should be towards south, and his back should be towards north, or the opposite. But between east and west, that is prohibited. And Lahatil Mayim, the Ramah says, to urinate, according to all Lahatil Mayim Chol Inyan Shari, any direction is permissible. But then it does talk about if a person is right there in Yerushalayim near the Beis HaMikdash. But before I get to that, let me just pull up the Mishnah Berurah over here. The reason for this is Bein Mizrach, because the Shechina rests in the west. 1 second, we got some noise going on here. One. Okay. So he brings down here the reason is that because the Shechina is in Ma'arav, is in the west, and even if a person faces the west, it's prohibited because the east is opposite the west, and it also has Kedusha. So it's not exactly the understanding that we have in our Gemara. In other words, our Gemara, we were understanding it to be the point was that you're facing Yerushalayim, Beis Hamikdash. Here, it's concentrating on another idea, and this is based on other commentaries here, that it's about the Shechina is in Ma'arav. The Shechina, the divine presence, is known to be in the west. What does that mean? The divine presence is in the west. So the simple understanding of that is that where does the sun set? Every night, the sun sets in the west. The sun setting in the west is because it's bowing down to Hashem. That's why the whole cycle, we're supposed to be able to see from the cycle of the sun and the stars that they have such submission to Hashem that every night they do an entire bowing down they go all the way from heavens, all the way down to bow down to the Shechina, which is in Ma'arav, which is in the west. And that's why the sun sets in the west. So that idea is connected here, that a person wouldn't face west because of the Shechina is in Ma'arav, is in the west. And then east would also be a problem because east is opposite, is the side that's opposite west. And now the Bir Halacha says that to urinate, he brings down the opinion of the Gra that Tzad Ma'arav towards the west is prohibited because the Shechina is in Ma'arav, is in the west, and the person is at least exposing themselves during their urinating, at least a little, they're exposing themselves. But rather, a person should turn towards the east or to the other sides, or in a place where there is a wall near them. And then he says that the minhag is lahakil ka Shulchan Aruch. The custom is to be lenient like the Shulchan Aruch. So there is an opinion to be strict even by urinating, according to the Gra. But the Bir Halacha, which is the Mishnah Berurah, he says that it's the custom is to be lenient. And Mistabra, that it would make sense, it would seem that in our places that people wear pants and a person doesn't reveal themselves much, maybe even the Vilna Goyim, the Gra, would be lenient. So he wants to say that it's possible. It's that
but East is Jerusalem.
The reason to be strict would be because they wore robes. But if they're just wearing pants and it's not an issue. Now Ben's question, that the fact is you're facing Jerusalem if you're facing east. So what it seems, and I probably should look into this more, but what it seems is that they're following this other explanation of our Gemara, which I was mentioning earlier, that doesn't learn like Rashi. Rashi is learning this all based on what's opposite Jerusalem and what's not opposite Jerusalem.
Yeah.
There is another view that says it's based on the Shechina being in Ma'ariv. So it seems that the Shulchan Aruch is following that view. Now, the place to look that up is in the Torah. The Torah in the Beis Yosef, that's where we would find this. So if I take a look, but I'm not going to look now, but that would be in the Torah in chapter 3, in the Beis Yosef commentary on the Torah. That's where he would discuss like whose explanation they're following. But it seems, at least from surface understanding, that they're not following the Rashi's translation of our Gemara. They're following the other interpretation that it has to do with the Shechina being in Ma'ariv, which is a very interesting concept of that the divine presence somehow is in the west, and that's why the sun sets in the west. Okay. The next Gemara over here was the story of Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana went to under the bed of Rav, and he heard Rav having relations sort of like speaking with his wife in a more frivolous way and joking with her and so on. And Rav Kahana told Rav, he said, it seems like you've never tasted this before. Like the term he used is, it seems like you've never ate a cooked meal before. And Rav told Rav Kahana, he says, Kahana, are you here? Leave. This is not appropriate. And Rav Kahana said, this is Torah. I needed to learn the right way to do things. So that's this is the story. Explaining it again, I told you it's a little hard to understand how he could have the chutzpah to any of these stories. Really a little surprising, but this is especially surprising. But anyway, the Gemara brings it, and that's the story.
Rabbi, I'm surprised that there's no follow-up from the Gemara. Like it just ends. It's Torah I have to learn, as if to say, well, that's okay. It
sounds like there was no discussion. He said his line and he ran out.
Yeah, but there was no follow-up from the sages of the Gemara saying, it's Torah and he has to learn, but this is not appropriate. They just sort of left it off in the middle and didn't discuss it. They left it for us to discuss. Yeah, they didn't really discuss the further. It is interesting. This is what it says. What can I say? Because it would lead one to believe that it's okay to do what he did. Right. Right. They do bring a Malbim that has a alternative interpretation here, that Rav lived on an upstairs level and Rav Kahana was on the floor below him. And so Rav Kahana was, let me just,
Rav Kahana didn't go into the room of Rav. Rav was living in a upstairs in a aliyah in the attic, and under him, or under it, was a room with a lot of beds. And Rav Kahana was on the top bunk. And so he was able to hear everything that was in the next floor. And when he told Rav that it seems like you've never tasted a cooked dish before, he didn't tell it to Rav. He told it to his friend that was sleeping under, that was in the bottom bunk. And Rav actually heard what he said. And he said, this is not derech eretz to, this is not appropriate. And Rav Kahana said, well, it's Torah. I wanted to mention it to my friend. I'm trying to learn. So that's the way he understands it, which makes it a little more understandable that he didn't have the chutzpah to actually go into his private room and where he's with his wife. But what it does seem similar to is the story of Rachel and Leah. Many people are not aware of this, but according to the Medrash, Rachel, when she gave the signs to Leah to marry Jacob, to marry Yaakov, so she actually there was a big problem because Yaakov was going to figure out that it's Leah, even though there's no lights. It was dark. In those days, they didn't have electricity. And Yaakov went after his wedding. He's thinking that he's with Rachel and he's really with Leah, but he's not going to know until the morning, right? Because it's so dark. The only thing is, anything he tells her, he's going to hear from her voice. So Rachel was, I guess her father forced her to go under the bed that they were sleeping on. And therefore, any question that Yaakov asked, Rachel had answered from under the bed. And Yaakov thought it was Leah answering, and therefore he couldn't tell from the voice. So this is a similar story of someone going into the room of someone with their wife. But anyway, that's the only other case that we know of, a similar type of case. In any event, the next Gemara mentioned what is the reason a person should not wipe themselves with their right arm, and rather they should use their left arm. And the Gemara gave a number of reasons. Yesterday, I gave you a difference, a possible difference between these different reasons, as if a person is a lefty. Now, Rava said the reason is because the Torah was given biyamin, that Hashem gave the Torah. It says miyaminai, from his right hand, eish das lamai. He gave the fire of religion to the Jews. And which means that the right hand is more respectable, and therefore a person shouldn't use it for cleaning dirt. Rabba bar Chana said because he uses his right hand often to put food in his mouth, and therefore a person should make sure that the hand that's much more clean is the right hand. Shimon Lakish says because he ties tefillin with it, and because he ties tefillin with it, it's not appropriate to do anything that's degrading with the right hand because he ties his tefillin. Yesterday we asked that sounds a little surprising. The tefillin itself is on the left hand, so you would think the left hand is much holier than the right hand. The right hand only ties the tefillin. The left hand actually has the tefillin. And yet the Gemara says that's a reason why not to clean oneself with their right hand, because the right hand ties the tefillin. What about the left hand? The left hand is even more respectable, deserves more respect, because it's the actual hand that has the tefillin on it. So we explained that the actual mitzvah with the tefillin is actually the tying the tefillin. And so it's actually the right hand that is doing the act of the mitzvah. And therefore, the left hand is, in a certain sense, not it doesn't fall into that category where you would say you can't do something not clean with the left hand. It's really the right hand that you would that would apply to. There is another explanation, by the way, and that is that the tefillin, the main tefillin, is on the arm, not on the hand, and therefore it's not a problem to. So that would be an alternative answer: is that the actual hand that one cleans oneself with could be the left hand, because the main tefillin, even though we have a custom to wrap it on our hand, but the main wrapping of the tefillin is the tying of it on the upper arm, and that you actually maybe shouldn't do anything degrading with the upper arm. But here we're talking about using one's hand. That wouldn't be a problem. So that is another answer given. So again, you have the answer of the fact that the main thing of the tefillin, at least the hand tefillin, is the tying, and that's the right hand. And the other answer is that it's the main mitzvah of the hand tefillin is the upper arm, and therefore the hand part of the tefillin is not really the main mitzvah. It's but you have the upper arm, then of course the tying of it. Yes, Ben.
But the giving of the Torah is really mainly in our brain. The hand is really not the main.
No, but
So
Hashem gave it with his right hand. It's the concept that Hashem gave it with his right hand, that it mentions the right hand. So it's Hashem's right hand. It's not really saying about our right hand. It's really Hashem's right hand. So then the Gemara gave another reason that, and this was interesting actually, that if you go to a shul and the Balkaire doesn't remember the trup so well, he didn't prepare so well, what happens? You have some guy standing there at the bima, and he helps out and he makes some notes, and this is how you're supposed to sing it. And so the Balkaire, the reader of the Torah, he sees from the peripheral vision, he's able to see the notes while he's reading in the Torah itself. He can't read outside, he can't say the words outside without looking at the Torah, but he's looking at the Torah, but his peripheral vision, he's able to see so the notes. And so the person who does the notes, he uses his right hand. So the Gemara says that because of that, you shouldn't use your right hand for anything dirty, because that's the hand that's used to do the notes and the Torah. Now, what's interesting is it sounds like it was very often that they would have someone there with doing the notes. So it could be, well, one of the things is that nowadays we have a Baal Kaire who gets paid, to prepare in advance. In the olden days, the person who got called up to the Aliyah, he was the one who had to read. So it was I guess it was very common maybe that they would have someone making the notes, showing the notes, because, people might be very knowledgeable in the Torah reading, but that doesn't mean they're going to know the notes over the Torah reading. So even if they were Maiver Sedra, they did Shtayim Mikra, even if they did their, even if they studied the Chumash well, doesn't mean that they're going to know the notes. And so maybe it was very common to have every shul had a person doing the notes above it. I see we have Gabbai over here, Ezra, our group Gabbai. Yes, tell us.
Yeah, no, the Yemenites normally read their own Aliyah. That's number one, and there are Sephardim who read their own. So it's not a rare thing. It happens.
Now, do
That's-
they prepare in advance? They know which aliyah they're getting? Does the shul call them on Friday and tell them you're going to be getting this aliyah? Like, how do they know which one to prepare?
Well, I know that we have one Sephardi who's normally told on the same day, and he prefers to prepare for the maftir because it's the last, of course, it's the last aliyah, and gives him a little bit more time to prepare. So he that's the preparation. But
Right. So
there are, nobody in the shuls that I've been at, I don't think anybody specifically has been told. So they may have prepared, Shnai Mikra v'Chat Targum from that, so they know pretty much of the particular aliyah that they're going to be given. So, but as far as the Baal Koreh, yes, there is normally somebody next to him that will
help
make the
along if
signs
needed.
and make the signs for him.
Right. So I'm just wondering if in the olden days, if maybe it was more common to have someone always like doing the signs because they didn't have the Baal Koreh, and there must have been this, at least at some point, that they didn't have regular schooling. People didn't have money to pay for schooling, so probably a lot of the kids, even if they learned how to read and even if they knew the words, to say that they would be so knowledgeable and know all the trup, there must have been groups of many people that were. I mean, we have the term in the Gemara, all over the Gemara, Amei Haaretz, and the Demai of the the whole concept of Demai throughout the Mishnahs. So I'm wondering if maybe this Gemara is it's saying that this was the regular thing, that they had someone constantly doing it. In other words, nowadays you have a guy who's there, who's capable of doing it. If the guy makes a mistake, he'll help you along. But I'm wondering if maybe in those days, maybe it was a very common thing, to the extent that we tell you your right hand is holier. I mean, this is quite a statement. Your right hand is considered like a holy hand because there's some guy who's going to be doing the trup with his right hand, and that means that the right hand is used for this mitzvah of Torah, and wouldn't be appropriate to use it for something that's meguna, that's not respectful.
Rabbi.
Yes.
I don't know whether it's here on this page or maybe it was in Masechet Shabbat, in which they were discussing, who gets the aliyah, and the discussion was, after the Kohen and the Levi, then that's a Talmid Chacham who satisfies certain set of rules, and another after that Talmid Chacham satisfies a different set of rules, etc. And at the very, very end, it says, and then the rest of us, so to speak. So I think it was probably in Masechet Shabbat in which they did discuss this, like page 14A or something like that. So it's possible that because of who was getting it at that time, there probably was someone who would sign, but the person who was being called up were normally people that were chashuv. Not so much us per se.
So what you're saying is maybe based on that, they sort of knew in advance which aliyah they're getting. Like the rabbi gets this aliyah, so they know they're not getting that aliyah. Every week he gets that, and the other guy is like a teacher, so he gets this, and the other guy's like the paisek, he gets that. So they sort of like know more or less which aliyahs they get. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
it's possible.
Okay, yeah, maybe. I'm just trying to. It just seems to me surprising that we would make a whole halacha, according to Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok, that we would make a whole. The hand carries with it a certain holiness. If it was because of doing some trup with it, if it was only done once in a blue moon, it would seem that it must be that this is like a regular thing. Now, the other thought I have is that often a Baal Koreh makes a mistake. And he might say the word properly, but he'll lose track of the trup. And won't, and most, at least in shuls that I'm at, often they don't correct him. They'll let him just, he'll make it, he'll catch up, he'll find himself a few words later and he'll get back on track. As long as he says the words correctly, your yaitza, everyone is fulfilling their obligation. So, it's good enough. But I'm wondering, maybe from here, maybe you see that they used to be very strict. And maybe they specifically had someone there because they didn't want to miss even one of the trups, that it shouldn't be wrong. Just a thought. This is just a thought that comes to my mind, that maybe, because there is a Gemara, remember where, there's a Gemara that says that it's a bad thing if you don't do the trup. Missing the trup, whoever reads the Torah without the trup, it says something negative. I don't remember. It must be a Gemara Megillah maybe. But I'm wondering how strict. In other words, normally you translate that to mean if you read the whole reading without trup, without the tune, that it's a problem. You missed a few words with tune. Normally, that's not it's not your fault. You fulfilled the obligation. You heard the Torah. You missed a few trups. But maybe here we see that maybe they used to be very strict. Like, in other words, the song of the Torah is definitely part of the gift that Hashem gave us in the Torah. In other words, the tunes are halacha. They must have been they must be given to Moshe at Sinai. These the trup, the tune. And so maybe they were very strict with it, and that's why they might have had someone there constantly who would do it. And this way, even if the Baal Koreh made a mistake, whoever was reading was like slightly off, he would catch himself right away because he would see that the Gabbai correcting him, the person. And so maybe that's just a thought that comes to mind, that maybe they were more strict than most shuls are nowadays. Could be. And Sephardic, are they very strict on the trup? Do they correct that if someone makes a mistake, Ezra?
Not that I remember.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I found in Lubavitch is they do seem to be a little more strict than the rest of the world in the trup. Like I don't know if they'll correct you, but there's definitely like a little push to try to get it right. They seem to be somewhat more strict. Like generally when I go to other shuls, they're not so. If the person messed up a little, it's okay. They'll catch up later. And I think in Lubavitch they are a little more strict. But again, they don't make a big deal about it. They're not going to tell the guy to go back if he messed up. But I'm wondering if this Gemara might be a source that we should be more strict. Anyway, okay. Let's continue. The Gemara then brought a brisa from the Tanoim. So we just gave all these reasons. Rabba Bar Chana, Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Reb Nachman bar Yitzchok. These are all the Amoraim, the later rabbis. Gemara says this seems to be a machlokes Tanoim. This is an argument of the earlier rabbis, the Tanoim, the authors of the Mishnah, that they discussed this. And Rabbi Eliezer said one reason about oichel ba, that you eat, that's the hand you eat with. Rabbi Yeshua says a new reason that we didn't learn before, because the Sefer writes tefillin, Sifrei Torah, tefillin, and mezuzahs with his right hand, and because of that, the right hand has a certain holiness. And Rabbi Akiva says, Rabbi Akiva says the same reason as Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok about the Taimei Torah, the trup of the Torah, which is interesting because Rabbi Akiva was the one who darshan. He expounded upon all the crowns of the letters. So Rabbi Akiva put a lot of emphasis on not just the deep meanings of the teachings of the Torah, but on the letters, the crowns of the letters. So it's interesting that he's the one who's very careful about the trup as well, where he says that you use your right hand to show the trup. That hand means that right hand is a certain element of holiness. So it seems like it's a Rabbi Akiva connected to his previous to his other view in the famous statement of Rabbi Akiva that he was that Moshe Rabbeinu was jealous of Rabbi Akiva because he saw him darshaning, expounding upon the crowns of each letter of the Torah. Okay, so then we have the next Gemara. Now we're up to a new Gemara. We have 3 minutes, so let's try to do a few lines, new lines. We are holding. We are holding. The line starts with the word Torah. It's maybe about 30 lines from the top of the page, 62a. The line starts Torah. Amar Reb Tanchum bar Chaniloi, Reb Tanchum, the son of Chaniloi, says, Kol hatzanua bebeis hakisei, whoever is modest in the bathroom, nitzol mishloisha dvarim, is saved from 3 things: min hanachashim, from the snakes, min ha'akrabim, from the scorpions, umin hamazikin, and from the demons. And it seems that in the olden days there were demons that were often in these outhouses that were used as bathrooms, and it was somewhat dangerous to enter them. Now, when a person is sanua, person is modest, so he doesn't have to worry about the snakes and the scorpions. They don't seem to bother him if he's very quiet. And the demons somehow don't bother him either. Something to do with his modesty. Rashi over here says that even the mazikin chosin olav, even the mazikin, the demons, they have mercy on him. So that's an interesting line, that the demons have mercy on the person. The Maharsha says an interesting point. He says that we learned earlier that there are angels that guard a person. They are escorting a person. So if a person has tznius, then the angels stay. They guard him. If a person is not tznius, if he's exposed more, then the angels can't really stay near him. So this is the reason why, if a person is tznius, he actually has the angels protecting him from the demons. Now, and some say, even his dreams will be pleasant. They will be miyushavin alav. The demons will not scare him. His dreams will be pleasant on him. And not only do the demons not wound him when he's there, but his dreams the demons could sort of cause him fear, they won't. Hahu beis hakisei dava b'Tveria, there was a bathroom in Tiberias. Ki hava ailoi betray. When 2 people would enter it, afilu biyamama mitazki, even during the day they would be wounded, they would be hurt. And this is very surprising, because normally when you go with 2 people, the demons don't have an effect on you. And normally during the day, the demons don't have too much power. And so this is what's surprising, that normally 2 people, even at night, they save, they sort of cause the demons not to be there. And by day, even 1 person is not, normally demons don't bother him. But somehow this bathroom in Tveria had some negative, something negative about it that caused that even at night it was dangerous, and even at night with 2 people is dangerous, even by day it was dangerous. And they went individually, and they didn't get damaged. Amri lahu Rabbanan, and the rabbi said to them, Loi mistafisu, are you not worried that you might get damaged? Amr lahu, they said back, Anan Kabbalah Gamarinon, we have a Kabbalah, we have a tradition that Kabbalah de Beis Hakisei tzniusa ushtikusa. The tradition that we have, that if you're tznius, if you have modesty and you're quiet, you don't have to worry. And the Kabbalah of the Beis HaKisei, the tradition is of the Beis HaKisei is snius in shtikus, in quiet. Kabbalah di Yisuri, the tradition about suffering, when a person is caused suffering, our tradition is shtikusa, that person should be quiet, umivei rachame, and beg Hashem that he should remove these suffering from him. But you don't argue with Hashem. Shtikusa, you're quiet and accept it in a quiet way. Okay, I guess we're going to stop here. Sei gesund, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.